RevOpsAF, the only podcast for people who are RevOpsAF and want to learn all about things that are RevOps AF.
Our goal is to give the revenue operations community, that includes marketing, sales, and CS, for any of you not paying attention, the skills needed to accelerate their careers.
Welcome to RevOpsAF, the podcast. I'm one of your co-hosts, Camela Thompson, and today I'm joined by Liv Porter. Liv, tell us a little bit about your background.
Thanks for having me. This is my first podcast, so I'm excited. I work at Cloud Adoption Solutions. We are a system integrator who sort of specializes on optimizing user adoption. Our work is based on our founders' PhD research on user adoption theories. So it's kind of fun because we get to do the techie thing with an academic lens. And so we're focusing on change management, adult learning theories, and diffusion of innovations when setting up our systems, or a lot of times we're not implementing something new, we're rescuing something. So it's fun because we're all nerdy here at Cloud Adoption. So we get to lean into that, but it lends itself well to revenue operations. We kind of frame all of our work through a RevOps lens because it's hard to build the right thing if you aren't leveraging revenue operations.
Well, I love that. I think everybody listening probably loves that too. But today we're here to talk about how AI killed cold outbound or cold prospecting. It's a snappy topic and one I've lived through many times, but I would love to know what that means to you. What's going on in the market that you're seeing?
Yeah, like 10 years ago, there was a pretty reliable playbook that you could implement across the board. This would be applicable if you had a small total available market, or if it was really big, you could have your marketing team put out good content, focus on SEO, some ads if needed. It was reliable. It could bring in inbound, and then you could execute with an outbound team as well. I can remember when I was first getting those emails from people in 2016, 2017, like, oh, how did they know I was looking into this? What a nice personalized message. It was new and pretty easy to get good results across marketing, SDR, BDR, AEs, SE, CSM, and you could predict your revenue. Now it's really hard to do. We went from open rates that were around 30 to 40% to we don't know anymore because of bots. And reply rates on a consistent sequence could be 15%. Now they're looking closer to like 1 to 2%. So it's really, really busy out there. There's 5 times more software companies now than there were 10 years ago. The emails have more than doubled from an average received per day in 2015 to now. It's really noisy. And so I find just from, let's say AI wasn't involved at all, it was going to be hard and messy no matter what. But AI has made it, it's a force multiplier. So now the emails that we're receiving are so much more. And what I'm seeing is AI fight back for the end user. So Google, Outlook, they're all using AI to stop emails from getting to us.
Well put. And it's funny because I remember things a little bit differently on the efficacy of these programs, because back when we could mass blast lists, marketing would purchase a list, they would blast people. I had salespeople coming to me and saying, can you please have them stop emailing my territory because it's making it harder for me to sell. And this was back early 2010s, late 2000s. At some point we said, let's give the SDRs the ability to email in mass. So we're kind of here, but why? Knowing that us as end users, I think all of us are a little bit more resistant to anything we get in our inbox, any calls we get. I'm generalizing, but I know that when I look at the phone and don't recognize the number, I'm not picking it up. Why do you think people are still running to automation and AI to solve this problem, even kind of knowing that in the back of their mind?
Some of it comes to diffusion of innovation, which is something my boss Shannon talks a lot about, where you have your innovators, your early adopters, early majority, late majority, laggards. So I think that people who are innovators and maybe even early adopters on using AI got really good results. Now you have the majority of the population learning about that, discovering that, reading something that was great in 2022, but not realizing that it's not going to be great anymore and you have to change it. So I think that there's some things, it's just how people work. And there's nothing we can really do about that. But I also think that there's a lot of snake oil salesmen out there who have made their career advising on what are pretty old tactics, and it's hard to change. So people are getting bad advice.
I would actually add another component. You're totally right, but I would add another component. When things aren't going well, we're looking for cost-cutting measures and headcounts. Find ways to do things at scale. But when things aren't working and we try to scale what's already not working, it's kind of a problem. So I would love to talk to you about, what do you think are the points of failure happening along here to make this so ineffective? Why are we only getting 1%? If we're lucky, response rates.
Yeah, so there's a lot of layers here with technical elements, process elements, and even people content type elements. Number one is that I am the best spam filter. I can detect it a mile away now. Around 2020, give or take a couple years, HubSpot, SalesLoft, Outlook, they were all posting those blogs. They're like, here are the top performing email subject lines for cold outbound. You'd have those types of content pieces before mass AI coming at you. And so you might have a couple people send you, hey, quick question, Liv, but the that technology, that content has been consumed by now. When you go into AI and you're like, hey, ChatGPT, help me write these emails, or programs that are designed to it, they're using old content to make the emails. And so now there's a whole pattern for sending emails that both me as a person and AI algorithms trying to detect spam can recognize. It's a double whammy. To get your messaging read, you have to have creative content.
Yeah. And I think some of us are more sensitive to it than others. Top 20 ways, unstoppable, mass scale, like the buzzwords that happen in these emails where you're like, okay, calm down. But what I also see happening here, if I could add kind of the marketing lens to it, because this is where I live, I think what I see happening a lot of times are executives trying to cut corners and costs through not hiring all the people. And it's frustrating because SDRs, they're not paid very well. They're often extremely junior. They may have zero experience in technology or interfacing with the persona. And the minute they get into the organization, their instinct is to email every single person in their territory before they understand pain points, what we're solving, all of this good stuff. So we're potentially burning a lot of equity. And then the AI piece, to me, if we don't have our target market or product market fit figured out, if we don't know who our key personas are, if we don't have a message that really resonates, we're scaling it.
Yeah.
What are the unintended consequences you see happening of implementing this strategy in that kind of environment?
Well, you already said it, and that's like burning down your contacts. You're burning two things, though. You're burning your domain reputation and your brand reputation. I posted a story on LinkedIn the other day about this guy. His name was Sam Darwin, so I like to call him Spam Darwin. He sent me a really bad email, and I didn't edit the name of my company, which is Cloud Adoption Solutions, which is already long. But then on LinkedIn, we have a woman-owned Salesforce partner as part of the name too. And so he mentioned my company like 4 or 5 times. And he said the full thing every single time. Like, oh my gosh, that's just like absurd. So I deleted it, marked it as spam. And he just kept sending me emails through new domains. And now as a result, I never want to work with that guy. And so you have a breakdown of bad content. The technology piece is good. Congratulations, you made it to my primary inbox, but your process is terrible. You have to strike the balance of all three if you're going to be successful.
And as a marketer who's worked in a company where we've burned our primary domain, it saddens me. I've been warning people about this for a long time because I've lived through it. You really need to be cautious about the volume of emails that you're sending, because providers like Google or email service providers, they are getting better at recognizing spam and flagging you. Your spam rate you're allowed is like 2 out of every 1,000 emails can report spam without you being kicked into purgatory and having your domain shut down. But it's really sad to look in the community. I see this quite often. Hey, my CEO says all of his emails are landing in a spam folder, or our domain was shut down. How do we fix this? It's such an important asset for the business, your primary domain. And it just saddens me every time I see that people have earned it. So looking at all of the consequences, where do you think we're going next with all of this? Where do you think this is evolving?
I see 3 paths that you can take, just in terms of trying to bring it to somewhere practical. There is still a high volume play that can be made. I have this chart. So I made this kind of as a joke, but then it ended up being people who shared it and liked it. I think you need to think through who your audience is. To your point, you need to know who that ICP is and then message accordingly. So like if you are selling a service, tends to be more of a complex sale, and you are acting like a bot and you're treating me like a bot, then I'm probably just going to mark you as spam, because this is a relationship. If you're selling a service, you have to trust that person and the people who are going to be delivering it. If you have a Chrome extension that is going to be a force multiplier for me, is a fantastic tool and maybe costs me like $15 a year, even $100 a year, you can actually use that high volume bot approach. Anybody can get value from this. It makes sense. Send it out, see what you can get. If you do the high volume approach, it's not necessarily a bad thing, but if you're a person and you're pretending to be a person using a robot, I can tell. And I'm not going to like that if this is not transactional. So there's a high volume play that can still be made, but you have to consider who's buying, the complexity of your sale, how many people are out there, can you afford burning through contacts? And then frankly, the tech stack on that is really expensive. You're going to have to own a lot of domains, because 2 people out of every 1,000 will mark you as spam. If you email my brother, he's a mushroom farmer. He's getting so many emails every day. He doesn't care about all these new, like, he's going to be marking you as spam. I love him to death, but that's going to happen. And so you have to have a lot of domains, and they have to look pretty professional. If they look spammy, then either Google or Outlook is going to filter it out, or I am. So the high volume play is still there, but you have to take a lot of care and you have to invest in the tech. People always say personalization at scale. I don't know if I love that phrasing, but I think that still exists. If you have really good content, if you have something that's super value add, a company like ComStore is a really good example of this, where I know if I receive an email from them, oh, this is going to be interesting. I want to read that. But I would say the majority of people that I'm getting emails from, both on the marketing and sales side, it's pretty crappy. And so that kind of leaves the other one, and it's going to feel like we're going back to the 90s, but it is really sort of like network development. You're focusing on being known by the whole network, so that when somebody is ready to buy in that like 3%, they're going to want to work with you.
Well, 2 thoughts simultaneously. As it's human nature, especially in our culture, for us to look for a quick fix, a silver bullet, a single problem solution. And so often it's so many things happening at once. So is there a world in which this could work? Yes, but you have to really nail the basics and understand your target audience, have great content, the right messaging, good information on who's looking into the product actively. I kind of see us either leaning all in and wondering why it's not working for a very long time, or going to the opposite extreme and realizing that fundamentally how we've structured this isn't great. Like, I think you're right, where we do go back and look at networks and relationship building. I see a lot of in-person events happening and coming back because it's effective. It just is.
Yeah. The worst though is whenever you have a bad hybrid of in-person and then really bad email follow-up. I went to probably 10 to 12 conferences last year. I was speaking a lot. I love to spend time with the vendors because the event does not exist without them. And I realized that. So like, I am a vendor's dream. I will go, I will talk to you, I will introduce you to people if I know they could use your tool, because that's how this all exists. I spent a lot of time at every conference, getting to know vendors, understanding what their tools do. If it's something I could use, I'll bring them in. If I can introduce them, I will. And I told everybody this. Do you know how many of the first half of the year, how many of them actually followed up with me directly based on the conversation we had? Take a guess. Probably talked to over 80.
Okay, so if you talk to 80, maybe 10.
One. And I got crappy emails from them after. I just got stuck into a sequence. And I was like, come on, this is basics. But I think we have really bad habits built around good relationship building, and everyone's kind of pointing at everyone else. So it's their job, it's marketing's job, it's sales job. Like, we don't have anybody in partnership, so we're just gonna throw them over here. I don't know. It's really interesting. That got better the second half of the year. It got a little bit better, and I probably was just a little more clear with people. Like, I would always leave the ball in their court, but this time I told them I will not follow up if I just get stuck into a generic sequence. So probably like 4 or 5 people actually follow up. And there were less of them, probably about 30. It's interesting.
Yeah, lots of thoughts happening all at once. Do better. Vendors, do better.
We need to do it's. I feel like people are trying to lean on just one thing. And to your point, there's not a silver bullet. Good results take time. Good relationships take time. And we are in this zero interest rate phenomena where money was pretty cheap. It was freely flowing. We had so many SaaS companies rise up, be successful really fast. Profitability was never the goal. Now we're shifting. We're seeing people want profitability. That's slower. It takes patience. It takes a different approach, but you still have executives who want everything right now. I think no matter what, you kind of are left with, you have to have good content, thorough tech, and a good process. Otherwise, you're going to be like Spam Darwin, and I'm going to end up in the same sequence 3 times.
I am excited for the full session at RevOpsAF in New Orleans. So you'll be speaking at the US conference. I'm really excited. Tell us a little bit about where people can network with you and learn more about what your company does.
Yeah, you can find me on LinkedIn. I am Liv Porter, dashes between each word. I love having good conversations. I think the whole world gets by on good conversations. We're all just trying to figure out what we're going to have for dinner tonight. It's great when you can eat those dinners together. So I would love to meet you at the conference. Maybe we can eat together. You can find us at cloudadoption.solutions, my website with my wonderful company. So thank you for this opportunity. I really appreciate it. I'm looking forward to meeting you in person.
Thanks so much for tuning in to today's episode, everybody.
For more great content like this, join our community at RevOpsCoop.com and check out the links provided in the show notes.